For the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about pressure. The first week, we went back to creation and we saw that limits were never a flaw in the design. God made us human on purpose. We were never meant to be everywhere, to know everything, to fix everything, or to carry everything. Then last week, we looked at Paul when the pressure went beyond what he had in himself. He didn't hide it. He didn't act like he was tougher than he was. He let the church see that he had reached the end of himself and that experience and his reliance moved on to God. Today, the pressure we're going to look at looks a little different. It's not one terrible moment. It's not one day where everything is falling apart. It's a pattern. Something has been done the same way for so long that nobody stops to ask whether or not it's still a good way to do it. It worked yesterday, so they did it again today, and they'll do it again tomorrow. And after enough days, nobody called it unusual anymore. They just called it normal. That's where Moses is in Exodus chapter 18. He's doing important work. The people need direction. They need help settling things they can't work out on their own. They're learning how to live as the people of God after generations in Egypt, and Moses is helping them understand what God requires. So the work he's doing matters. And that can make pressure harder to recognize. It's easier to notice when something pointless is wearing us down. It's harder when the work is good and the people really do need us and we know how to help. So we're in Exodus chapter 18. Moses is available. He listens. He answers questions. He makes decisions. And little by little, everything starts running through him. Yesterday, we celebrated independence. And there's a lot about independence that we value. But independence can quietly become self-reliance. We start believing capable people should be able to handle everything themselves. We start thinking that responsibility means keeping everything in our own hands. And sometimes doing it ourselves really does feel easier. We already know how. We don't have to explain it. We don't have to wait. So we take care of it. And then we take care of the next thing. And the next thing. And before long, people stop asking where something should go, and it just comes to us. Nobody may have planned it that way. There may have never been a moment when everyone decided that one person would carry the whole thing. But a faithful person kept saying yes. People kept coming. The pattern became normal. And that's the scene that we're looking at today. That's the scene that Jethro walks into. Moses sits down to judge the people, and they stand around him from morning until evening. From where Moses is, he sees the next person and the next problem. Jethro sees the whole day. He sees Moses. He sees the people waiting. He sees how everything has changed. Moses has been doing the work, and Jethro has been watching the way the work is being done. And those two things aren't always the same view. So if you have your Bibles, we're in Exodus chapter 18, starting with verse 13. It says, "The next day Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, 'What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?' Moses answered him, 'Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties, and I inform them of God's decrees and laws.'" Moses' answer makes sense. The people are coming to seek God's will. They have real disputes, and Moses knows what God has said. So from where Moses sits, this probably feels like faithfulness. People need help, and he can help them. He isn't wasting the day. He's not avoiding what God called him to do. He's listening to the people, and he's helping them work through conflict, and he's teaching them what God requires. There's a reason they keep coming to him. Moses has history with God. He stood before Pharaoh. He led the people out of Egypt. He had spoken with God. He had already been guiding the people according to what God had showed him. When people wanted to know what God required, Moses was the obvious person to ask. So none of this looks unreasonable at first. But Jethro isn't only listening to Moses' explanation of the work, he's watching the way the whole day is arranged. Moses is sitting in one place, and the people are standing around him from morning until evening. Every disagreement has to make its way to Moses. Every question has to wait for Moses. Every decision depends on Moses having enough time, enough attention, and enough energy to hear it. And Jethro can see the pressure gathering in one place. The work is good. The arrangement isn't. And that can be difficult to recognize when the work matters to us. When we know that the need is real, we can assume that the way we're meeting it must be right. When people genuinely depend on us, stepping back feels irresponsible. We may even feel guilty for questioning the pattern because the people involved aren't interruptions. They matter to us. That seems to be where Moses is. I don't think he's sitting there thinking, how can I make these people wait on me all day, every day? I think he's thinking, these people need to know God's will, and I'm the one who can help them. But good intentions don't keep an unhealthy arrangement from wearing people down. Moses is giving the people his time, but the people are also giving up their whole day just to reach him. It's like going to the DMV. They're standing there from morning until evening. And somewhere in that line are people with disputes that may only take a few minutes to settle. Others may have complicated situations, but all of them are waiting because every matter has to be seen in the same place. The more people come, the longer the line gets. The longer the line gets, the more pressure gathers around Moses. And because Moses keeps answering, the pattern keeps proving itself. People come to him because he handles the disputes. He handles the disputes because people come to him. Eventually, nobody thinks of it as a choice anymore. It just becomes the way things are. Nobody has to say, Moses should be responsible for every decision. The whole community has already learned to act as though he is. And Moses has learned to respond as though that's what faithfulness requires. When we're good at something, more and more of it starts coming our way. People know we'll remember. They know we'll respond. They know we can make the decision and keep things moving. And because we care, we keep doing it. But over time, being capable can put us in the middle of everything. People stop developing other ways to handle what comes up. Other capable people never get the chance to carry responsibility because the work never reaches them. And the person in the middle becomes so necessary to the system that even taking a step back feels dangerous. The current arrangement only works as long as Moses can keep sitting there and taking whatever comes next. There's no margin for him to step away and no plan for what happens as the number of people and problems keeps growing. Everything depends on Moses continuing to sit there and absorb whatever comes next. And that doesn't only put pressure on Moses, that limits everybody else too. The people are learning to wait instead of learning how responsibility might be shared. Potential leaders are standing in the crowd instead of being developed. This whole community has been arranged around one person's availability. And because the work keeps getting done, at least eventually, nobody has stopped long enough to ask what the current way is doing or the current way of how the current way of doing it is, what it's costing them. But Jethro does. He sees the need, but he also sees that line. He sees that Moses is serving, but he also sees that the people are spending their whole day waiting. Jethro understands why Moses is doing the work. He can also see that the reason for doing it doesn't make the arrangement make sense. It doesn't make it sustainable. Moses is close enough to hear every problem. And Jethro is far enough back to see the pattern. Sometimes we need both views. The person doing the work knows things that an outsider may never understand. But someone outside the daily pressure might notice what the person inside has stopped seeing. Jethro is looking at a system where every need has to pass through one person. And he can already see what's going to happen if nothing changes. Moses explained why he's doing it, and now Jethro is going to tell him what it's costing everybody. Verse 17. Moses' father-in-law replied, "What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You can't handle it on your own." Jethro doesn't soften it. He don't sugarcoat it. He says, what you're doing is not good. That can be hard to hear, especially when Moses is trying to help people. He's not neglecting the work. He's giving himself fully to it. But Jethro can see that the way it's being done is wearing everybody down. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The pressure is landing on Moses, but it isn't stopping with him. The people are standing around all day waiting for their turn. Decisions can only move as fast as one person can hear them. The whole community is being slowed down by the way the work has been arranged. And then Jethro says, the work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. He's not insulting Moses. He's telling him about the truth about the size of the work. This has grown beyond what one person can carry well. That can be hard to hear when we're used to being the one who handles things. We can hear, you can't do this alone, and feel like somebody's questioning our ability. But Jethro's not questioning Moses' calling. He's questioning a structure that expects one person to carry the entire weight of it. Moses may know that the days are long. He may feel that strain, but Jethro gives him words for what has become normal. This is too much for one person. Sometimes we keep trying to solve that kind of pressure by squeezing more into the same structure. But Moses doesn't need the line to move faster. The line shouldn't depend on him alone. That's the problem. The whole arrangement only works if Moses keeps sitting there and taking whatever comes next. There's no room for growth, no room for him to step away, and no room for anybody else to carry real responsibility. And Jethro includes the people when he talks about the cost. He says, you and these people. Moses may have thought that by carrying everything himself, he was protecting the people from the weight. But they're still paying for it. They're paying for it in the waiting. They're depending on one person for every answer. And as long as everything has to pass through Moses, the whole community can only move at the pace of Moses. Jethro can see where this is headed. Moses will keep giving more of himself. The people will keep waiting longer. And the same system that was built to help them will start making life harder for everybody. The work is too heavy for one person. Trying harder won't fix it. The way the work is being carried has to change. Look at verse 19. Listen now to me, Jethro continues, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to Him. Teach them the decrees and laws, and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times. But have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, all these people will go home satisfied. Jethro doesn't tell Moses, hey, you got to walk away from all this work. He helps him see which part of the work still belongs to him and which part needs to move into other hands. Moses will still represent the people before God. He'll still teach them what God has said and help them understand how they're supposed to live. That part doesn't disappear. What changes is the idea that every dispute has to be handled by Moses personally. Jethro tells him to choose capable people from among the people and give them real responsibility. That means the answer isn't simply adding more people around Moses while everything still comes back to him. The whole flow has to change. Some cases can be handled before they ever even get to Moses. The difficult ones can still come to him, but the everyday work doesn't have to keep piling up in one place. Before Jethro talks about appointing leaders, though, he talks about teaching. Before responsibility is shared, the people need to understand God's ways. Moses is supposed to make those ways clear enough that others can live by them and lead with them. That changes more than the length of the line. If people grow in wisdom, then every problem doesn't have to become something only Moses can solve. Sometimes we keep handling the same things over and over because nobody else has been given enough understanding or enough room to carry them. It may feel quicker to step in and take care of it ourselves. The immediate need gets handled, but the pattern stays the same. Jethro's asking Moses to slow down long enough to build something better. He has to teach people clearly. He has to recognize who can be trusted and then let them carry real authority. Moses isn't disappearing from the work. His role is becoming more focused. He'll be able to give his attention to the cases that truly require him because everything else won't be waiting at his feet. The people Jethro describes need more than ability. They'll be making decisions that affect other people, so their character has to be dependable. They need to fear God. They need to tell the truth. They need to refuse to use responsibility for their own benefit. Moses can't just hand this work to anybody. But he also can't keep it all because finding and preparing the right people takes effort. It probably would be faster, at least for a while, to keep doing everything himself. He already knows how. He doesn't have to explain anything. He doesn't have to wait while somebody else learns or risk watching them make a mistake. But if Moses keeps choosing what's faster today, the line will still be there tomorrow. Jethro is showing him that short-term efficiency can keep a bad structure in place. A better way will take time to build. Moses will have to trust people with work that he once handled himself. And that can be harder than admitting that the load is too heavy. Wanting relief doesn't always mean we're ready to release anything. We may bring somebody else into the work, but keep every decision in our own hands. We ask for help, and then we stay so involved that the other person never really gets to carry it. The task may move, but the responsibility never does. That isn't what Jethro is describing. These leaders will hear cases and make decisions. Moses will still handle the difficult matters, but he won't remain involved in every simple detail just because that's how it's always been done. Jethro says the load will become lighter because others will share it with him. The work hasn't lost its importance. It's been placed into more than one set of trustworthy hands. And the people benefit from the change too. The people won't have to spend the whole day waiting for one person to reach them. Their needs can be addressed closer to where they arise, while Moses is freed to carry the part of the work that actually belongs to him. The people who had been standing in line now have others who can serve them. The work is still there, but it no longer has to pile up around one person. Let's see what happens. Verse 24. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Moses listens to his father-in-law and does what he says. Jethro has just told him that the way he's carrying the work isn't good. The load is too heavy and the current arrangement is wearing everybody out. Moses could have defended himself. He knew the people better than Jethro did. He understood the disputes. He knew what God had said. He had been leading this community through situations Jethro had only watched from the outside. But Moses listens. He doesn't treat Jethro's advice like an attack on his leadership. He lets somebody who cares about him tell him the truth about what he can't see for himself. And then he changes the way the work is done. He chooses capable people and he gives them responsibility. They begin handling the ordinary cases and the difficult ones still come to Moses. The work finally starts moving through more than one person. That sounds simple when we read it in a few verses, but it probably didn't feel simple while Moses was doing it. He had to choose people he could trust. And then let them make decisions he used to make himself. That meant accepting that they may not handle every situation the same way he would. And once the work moved into their hands, Moses had to resist the temptation to take it all back the first time something became complicated. Changing the structure required more than agreeing that the old way wasn't working. Moses had to release real responsibility. Recognizing that something is wearing us down doesn't automatically mean we'll change it. We may agree that others need to be involved and still hold on to every decision because letting go feels risky. Moses doesn't do that. He acts on what Jethro has told him. The simple cases stay with the leaders who have been appointed. The difficult cases come to Moses. That puts some boundaries around his role. He remains involved and responsible, but he's no longer the only place where anything can happen. And the people are no longer spending the whole day waiting for one person to reach them. The work is being handled closer to where it begins. More people are using this wisdom and ability that God has given them. Moses has room to carry the part that actually belongs to him. Nothing in this passage suggests that the work became unimportant once it was shared. The change didn't lower the standard. It made it possible for the community to keep functioning without exhausting the person at the center of it. That's what the old arrangement couldn't do. It could survive as long as Moses kept absorbing the strain. The new arrangement could keep serving people because the weight had been spread through a group of trustworthy leaders. Sometimes we pray for the pressure to disappear. And the people still need care when the next morning comes. But the way we carry that responsibility can change. Sometimes relief comes when our role becomes clearer and work we've held on to is finally trusted to someone else. That's what Moses does here. He doesn't abandon his calling. He stops treating every need as though it belongs to him personally. And that final verse shows the difference. They all served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. So the leaders handled the simple cases themselves, and the difficult ones come to Moses. The people now have others who can serve them, and Moses can keep leading without the whole community depending on him for every decision. Jethro warned that both Moses and the people would wear themselves out. And now the structure has room for both of them to keep going. Moses can stand the strain because he's no longer standing all of it by himself. And the people can go home instead of spending the entire day waiting in line. The pressure didn't come down because everybody stopped needing help. It came down because Moses was willing to let the work be carried differently. Some of us can already name the place where this has been happening. Too much has started running through us, and we've gotten used to being the one who remembers, the one who decides, the one who fixes it, the one who keeps everything moving. We may have called it responsibility or even faithfulness, but the pressure has been building. And the way we're carrying the work needs to change. For Moses, that began with listening to someone who could see what he had stopped seeing. And then he trusted other people with real responsibility. For us, it may begin by getting honest about what God has actually placed in our hands and what we've kept there because releasing it feels uncomfortable. And we can bring that with us as we receive communion today. This table reminds us that our life with God rests on what Christ has done for us. Jesus gave himself for us, and we receive his grace with open hands. On the night Jesus was betrayed, he took bread and he broke it, and he gave it to his disciples and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." This bread reminds us of his body given for us. Jesus entered our world and gave himself fully on the cross so that we could be forgiven and be brought near God. After supper, he took the cup, saying, This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. This cup reminds us of his blood poured out for the forgiveness of sins. Through Jesus, mercy has been given to us, and we belong to God because of his grace.